Okay, so um, yesterday we read Genesis chapter 9. Today we'll read 10. And I think we kind of finished up Noah. Um, one other thing that struck me, and I don't know how I looked over it, but I was reading my study Bible here, and it drew a comparison, and it struck me that, oh, that's important. In Genesis chapter 6, God limits the life of man to 120 years. Now, interestingly, that's the same amount of time that Noah spends building the ark. Now, I think there is some important comparison to be made there in that our project, God ordained project, is our life. That's our ark. And we need to build an ark out of faith and obedience that is capable of withstanding the floods of life, the vicissitudes of life when the waters rise. Will you float on your faith? Did you have enough obedience to prepare? Or will you be drowned? And I think that's an important thing to consider. So, anyway, moving on to 10. The Table of Nations. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. The Japhethites, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The sons of Javan, Elisha, probably Elisha, Tarshish, the Kittites, and the Rodanites. From these, the maritime people spread out into their territories by their clans within their nations, each with its own language. The Hamites, the sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sebteca. The sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan. Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of the kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, Calneh, and Shinar. And from that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Ir, Kala, and Raisin, which is between Nineveh and Kala, which is the grand city. Here in my, I'm certain, mispronouncing of all these names, I might give away my lack of church going for the last 20 years. So, forgive me. I'm sure with time I'll learn to say all these things correctly. Egypt was the father of the Ludites, the Anamites, Lehabites, Naphtuhites, Pathrusites, Casluhites, from whom the Philistines came, and the Caphtorites. Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. Later, the Canaanite clans scattered, and the borders of Canaan reached from Sidon towards Gerar, Gerar, as far as Gaza, and then towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham by their clans and languages in their territories and nations. The Semites, the sons were also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the sons of Eber. The sons of Shem: Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram: Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah the father of Eber. Two sons were born to Eber. One was named Peleg, because in his time the earth was divided. His brother was named Joktan. Joktan was the father of Almodad, Shalef, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havlah, and Jobab. These were the sons of Joktan. The region where they lived stretched from Mesha towards Sephar in the eastern hill country. These are the sons of Shem by their clans and languages in the territories and nations. These are the clans of Noah's sons, according to their lines of descent, with their nations. From these nations spread out over the earth after the flood. Okay. So, what immediately stands out there is we just read in chapter 9 about Noah cursing Japheth. No, not Japheth. Oh my gosh, who was it? Ham. So, we just saw him curse Ham. And then we read about the clans that come from Ham. And we see that they are clans that the Israelites are going to struggle with later. And so that's kind of just interesting. But outside of that, I don't know much about geography, and I haven't studied much of the maps of the nations as they're laid out in the Bible. And so, and when I say much, I mean none. I've looked at the index map once or twice, but that's not yeah. So I don't really have much to say about this. This seems pretty much as it is. So, Genesis chapter 11, the Tower of Babel. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. The people moved eastward. They found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." So that's interesting. I'll have to put a note there. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the people were building. The Lord said, "If as one people speaking the same language they had begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so that they will not be able to understand each other." So the Lord scattered them from over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, because the Lord confused their language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. It's a short story, but there's a lot going on there. This is the account of Shem's family line. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. And after he became the father of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arphaxad had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. And after he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. And after he became the father of Serug, Reu lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahor. And after he became the father of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor had lived 29 years, he became the father of Terah. And after he became the father of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. This is the account of Terah's family line. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lot. When his father Terah was still alive, Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, in the land of his birth. Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Now Sarai was childless, because she was not able to conceive. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. So, okay. So, this is interesting. There's a lot that goes on in this chapter, chapter 11. Wow. So, in chapter 11, we see the cleverness of people starts to come forth. And so they start to make bricks instead of using stone and tar for mortar. Okay? So they're relying on the creation of their own hands to build their lives now, rather than what God has provided them. And in doing so, they're flourishing in a certain way, right? And God associates this with language, with communication, with information. So the ability to communicate has done this. It has provided them with the ability to create grand things and to use those grand things in a way so as to attempt to make a name for themselves, so that they can be fruit fly, so that they don't get scattered across the land. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing. So they want to make something tall and permanent and steadfast that resists imposition and the outside forces that might otherwise cast them out of that land. And so, along with the success in building, along with the success in speaking and being able to communicate, so comes pride, the desire to make a name for oneself. And so obviously the Tower of Babel is a story of pride. How exactly pride is inextricably linked to language and to the work of our hands is it seems complicated and also simple at the same time. We have to have a word for a thing to make it static over time, right? If I have a word for myself, if I have a name, that name stays the same even though I change. It becomes a static marker in time. And in so doing, in some way, it resists the changes of my life. Whether I'm doing well and doing poorly, whether I'm strong or I'm sick and enfeeble, I still have the same name. And this is an attempt to now exteriorize that and to make permanent in the world things which otherwise are impermanent. So if we can build a tower that's great enough, it withstands all things, and it reaches up higher than anything else in the land. It's also to have dominion over everything else in the land. Then it will stay stable in the face of the changes in words. And so then words can change and still be anchored to these great objects in the world. It's just getting kind of abstract. And so it's almost a Wittgensteinian kind of notion here. But it's to make permanent. This story seems to be an exercise in making permanent the physical and metaphysical objects that people interact with, and then them using those objects and their permanency as a holder for their identity, a place on which they might hang their name. And that's pride, that's an ego. That's what an ego is. It is all the objects and experiences that we associate identity with. And so that's what these people are doing. And it's inflationary. And so God casts it down and mixes up the languages to make that process harder. Now, there's some parallels here with the internet and with universal translation and the overcoming of this to some degree by human beings. And I think the threat is still real. It's still the same threat. And may God protect us as he did the people of Babel. Because he mixed it up and he confused it and he made it hard for them to speak, so that the cleverness of mankind couldn't outpace mankind's wisdom. At least not any more than it already had. And I think we're at real risk of doing that here in society today. And pride, that's going to be a scary one. People are going to mistake what they know from the tools that they've created for what they themselves have accomplished. And they're going to forget that all of it came from God. And I'm very afraid that we'll see an explosion of pride in people because they will have nothing to subordinate themselves to if they don't have faith. And so may God keep us humble, and that humility will save us, because God resists the proud, and people don't make it too long without him. So, also, after the Tower of Babel, we see that people's lives start to decrease in years. And they start to approach that 120-year mark that God had set aside for people in Genesis chapter 6. And real quick, I think I mentioned it in the last video, but I'd like to just call attention to the idea of the firstborn as a metaphor, a symbol for the future. And so, after Adam and Eve have their fall, they give birth to Cain. And Cain, the firstborn, is a universal symbol of evil. I mean, and that sets the stage for what is to come. That is the future of mankind. They're going to struggle against God due to the wickedness in their hearts every day thereafter, until the coming of Christ. And anyway, we'll get to that too. So, okay. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I love you, and I appreciate you listening to this. Sorry for my terrible pronunciations, and for being a little sleepy this morning, but this is the best part of my day. It's what I look forward to doing. So, well, that and coming home and seeing my kids, at least before work and before coming home. This is the best part of my day. So, have a great one, everybody. God bless you.